Good Gab, sponsored by Skillskin, a nonprofit organization empowering individuals with disabilities through employment. I'm excited about today's conversation. We're going to learn a lot. We're going to learn how to activate in our community. And we've got an awesome guest today. It's Matt Santangelo. He is the project manager of Expo 74 50th anniversary. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Heck yeah, it's really nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well.
Yeah, you got your hands in everything and have been in a long time in Spokane. And, you know, what's going on in your world now?
Well, right now there's a combination of three things, at least professionally.
Just three?
Just three.
Oh, okay.
The day job is a financial advisor at D.A. Davidson here in town. One of the side gigs that is I'm kind of transitioning away from is name, image, and likeness with the Zags Collective, supporting Gonzaga student athletes. And the third one, which is just ramping up, every day gets a little bit faster, is the 50th anniversary celebration of Expo 74, which we're, as of this recording, a little over a month away from the opening ceremonies.
Oh, wow. So we're seeing it everywhere.
Yeah.
You're doing a good job in that way. Like, it's all over the socials. And I mean, it's such a foundational moment for Spokane, you know, when Expo got launched and how it came together. So yeah, what are we celebrating? 50 is pretty, that's a great number.
It's a significant number. Yes. It's transformative is what Expo was. Expo 74. At the time, Spokane was the smallest city ever to host the World's Fair. For your listeners that may not understand, like the World's Fair was Olympic level type event back in the day. You know, it's kind of not quite as significant now, but back in 74, it was huge. I mean, literally the world would come out to these things.
Yeah, it's kind of like an impossible thing to get this launched here.
And in Spokane, Washington, like it just didn't make any sense. And for those that are familiar with downtown and Riverfront Park, that was a rail yard. With multiple national railways that called it a stop. And then didn't necessarily call it home, but called it a stop. You know, the river at the time was horribly polluted.
Right.
And so 50 years ago, a group of leaders in the community, more than 50 years ago, because it took a while to get, but they worked hard to kind of present Spokane as an opportunity for the World's Fair for the committee, and did a ton of work to the point where the railroads actually agreed to do something together, and that was to give the land back to Spokane, to the city.
Which probably an impossible task for that.
Just alone.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. And ultimately, we housed the World's Fair, and it's still one of the most successful World's Fairs ever. It's like New York.
Like dollars or numbers of
dollars,
people?
like one of the few that were in the black. You know, usually communities would invest a ton of money to bring these things to town. And the event itself wouldn't necessarily create that economic impact, but maybe the leave behind was worth it for the city, you know. In our case, the event itself was successful as well. It's like New York, Tokyo, Paris, Spokane. You know, just rolls off the tongue, right?
I love that.
So, but it really is a great example, and we can get into this too, where I think it's seeded this kind of Expo ethos. The more I've learned about Expo, that really supported in these last 50 years some pretty world-class things that have come out of Spokane too.
Just hearing you talk, I don't know, just connecting some dots just on the show. Like we're, you know, promoting like a lot of the nonprofits in Spokane, and just a lot of people just moving the needle on good stuff. And we hear this running element of big things can happen in this town, and it's usually through collaboration. Yeah. And sometimes has some national impact. And I wonder, was that ethos here before Expo 74, or was that one of those seminal moments that just changed our community forever?
I think it was the seminal moment. I mean, just to, again, we talked about like that. How in the world does Spokane get it? What Spokane looked like with the rail yards and the pollution in downtown? I mean, literally, we had a Skid Row. I mean, we called it proudly Skid Row. Like, it wasn't even like
Grandpa told me stories about it.
Exactly. Like when people do, it's pretty funny. They get pretty excited about, oh, you took away our Skid Row. Like that was the drawback to to Expos. It got rid of Skid Row. But then you look forward, and I'm biased here, so this is coming from definitely a biasy. But you have Bloomsday, the largest road race in the world. Not the largest road race in the Northwest. Not the largest road race, in the inland north, like the
whole world.
Yeah. Of course, and then I'm near and dear to these next two, but Hoop Fest is still the largest basketball tournament in the world. And then you have Gonzaga basketball, which is this huge phenomenon, both men and women. And so you have there's not a city in America that wouldn't want one of those things.
Right. And
we have three. And I think the more I've learned about that Expo ethos, the more we can point back to that seminal moment in time, to that change. Like, yes, we can. We can figure this out. We can make it happen. We're big enough to be globally recognized events, but we're small enough to actually get stuff done.
Exactly.
And that
collaborate
nice.
and make it happen.
Yep.
Well, so what does the celebration look like?
So the challenge the scaffolding that I was given when I first got engaged, which was January, February of last year of 23. So really a short window of time. It's almost like we didn't know it was going to be the 50th anniversary. No, I don't want to say that.
Coming out of COVID.
Strike that one from the record. Yeah. But I got involved last year, and the scaffolding I was given was a 9-week celebration. From May 4th, which would have been literally the 50th anniversary of the opening ceremonies of the World's Fair. So May 4th, 2024 through July 4th weekend of this summer. And there were 5 kind of thematic pillars that they had identified that they wanted to kind of bring to life, showcase, highlight over this 9-week calendar of events. Environmental stewardship, because the 74 World's Fair, was the first one with an environmental statement. The EPA had just been formed. Earth Day was just a couple years old. The second one is legacy of the fair. How did Spokane get it? The story behind the leaders of the community. That one's really interesting because it's not all rose-colored glasses. Our immigrant population who was brought here to build the railroads ultimately built the fair and displaced their entire homes, their communities, their neighborhoods.
Because it was right.
It was right there. Japantown, Chinatown. Literally destroyed their homes in order to build the fair. So it's not all rose-colored glasses. I think that's important. I also think, as a quick side note on that one, we're at a point in time where we can tell those stories.
Definitely.
And we can offer this 50th anniversary.
I don't know if I've even heard that story.
Yeah, it was one that came up really early on and while we got started. It was one that I found that was really important because can we offer this as a platform or a stage, this 50th anniversary, for some healing in our community? So I thought that was really powerful. The third one is tribal culture. As an independent pillar of these 5 pillars. I mean, we're on sacred land, the falls, the river, certainly the park, our great tribal partners and communities that have had so much impact on our broader region. So that's the third one. Fourth and fifth are relatively broad: arts and culture, and then recreation and sport. And so those are the 5 pillars we were challenged to kind of bring to life
over a 9-week period.
So pretty ambitious.
Absolutely.
And I do have to say one caveat: this is not the World's Fair. This is just the 50th anniversary of because you get people talking about it and they get hyped. I mean, people that were here and
I'm excited.
Yeah, and like people that were here, like it was the greatest summer of their lives. They either came to the World's Fair, fell in love with Spokane and stayed. They met their significant other, fell in love that summer. They literally changed not only the geography of Spokane, but just transformative in people's personal lives.
It's true. My parents tell stories about that. Like,
Yeah.
I think they were graduating or maybe junior, something like that. They were in high school.
Yeah.
But they come down all summer long. They got their pass and just hung out, probably caused some trouble and had a good time.
Literally for 6 months, that's what the fair was. And so I wanted to do kind of a funny activation during it, just put up a chain link fence so that people can either relive climbing under it or climbing over it. Because you hear those stories like, we didn't get a pass, we snuck in every night. And I'm like, well, just to kind of relive that. And you see, little older people now trying to climb under a fence or climb over a fence.
Watch my dad try to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Pops.
Sign the insurance release first, and now you can try to relive 50 years ago.
That's incredible. So that's coming soon.
Yeah, May 4th.
Yeah.
We're a little over a month away.
So we have the framework. We kind of know what's going on. When does the calendar of events start to publish?
It's out there. I looked this morning. There's 66 events on the calendar. One of those events are what we're calling community stage because it's not a World's Fair. It's during a very busy time for Spokane anyway. You have, literally Bloom's Day is May 5th. It goes through, Lilac, Juneteenth, Pride, Hoop Fest, certainly. Those are all partnered events, so they'll kind of have an Expo
That's
theme
cool.
to them.
So everyone's getting on
so
board.
it kind of looks like, so even those existing events will come alongside or we'll come alongside them, more appropriately said. And then we'll include our own events inside that calendar too. But those events are available on Spokane, Expo50spokane.com. It's our Visit Spokane website is the host, and they have all the events. But back to the community stage, just to kind of give you a little bit more idea of the breadth of this thing is every Saturday during that time, we're going to set up a stage in the park where smaller, because what we found is all these groups wanted to participate, be it a musical group, a theater group, a dance group, spoken word. I mean, all these different kind of expressions of creativity and culture wanted to participate. So what we did with Riverfront Park is create the venue, kind of Field of Dreams-ish, build it and they will come. So that schedule's all full too. So I mean, when we're done, we're probably going to have 120 to 130 events, acts, programs tied to this celebration.
It's huge.
It's wild.
Yeah.
The good news is Expo brings everyone to the table. The challenging thing is it brings everyone to the table. So that's kind of what we've been navigating here and I literally, as soon as I was offered the opportunity, I mirrored Hoop Fest. I was like, give me the experts as we can identify them in each one of those 5 areas, and then just empower them to go do their thing.
Well, it's really smart because, I mean, that's only how you're going to get a big thing done anyway, right?
Yeah, or else it's just coming from a room with 4 or 5 people making decisions, and that's not what we wanted either. We wanted it to be inclusive. We wanted it to have great outreach into the community, and we wanted to empower those voices and those creative expressions, those cultural expressions, and really remove the barriers to access. You know, all these events are free.
You're talking our language in the disability world. It's like, here we go.
Yeah, like that was what we wanted to do. So that's what we presented to sponsors and philanthropists that supported us financially. It was like, we're just trying to remove barriers. That's it. For our community to come out and celebrate for 9 weeks this moment in time 50 years ago that some of us were here for, some of us weren't. Taking stock of where we're at today and hopefully starting conversations that can drive what we want to be 50 years from now.
I love your leadership on this. I can see why, you were, sought out to come to, and good
the
thing
short
you
straw.
say yes.
Yeah, the short straw.
Where does that come from? Like, your approach to leadership?
I think, it definitely, it's rooted in family for sure. So I'm the youngest of 9 kids.
Okay.
5 sisters, 3 brothers out of inner city North Portland. Loving family, don't come from a lot of love, a lot of support, but not a lot of material things. So service was always a component. My dad ran the largest bingo game in the state of Oregon, and that's how he paid for all 9 of us to go through Catholic schools, grade school and high school. It was all through service because we didn't have money. So it was always kind of this idea. I mean, obviously, youngest of 9 kids, you're not the show, right? Like you're last in line to get the food, and from day one, it's not just about you. And then those lessons got reinforced through the example of my parents. And so kind of that idea of service, and then you throw on top sports and that the leadership that you don't know you're developing when you're growing up and you're developing these things. And that's kind of has carried me through. And then I think, when you can say yes, at some point you have a responsibility to say yes.
True.
And so I think that's kind of led some of these things. And it's fun. I mean, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard, but it's also I think it's a great story. So we were talking before about my LinkedIn or whatever. Well, at the end of the day, like my tombstone's going to be at least colorful. You know, I mean, a lot of things on it. So I don't know if that's good or bad or indifferent, but it's going to be what it is.
It's going to be awesome because it's impact. I feel that. That's kind of the life I want to live. Like, I want to have a life of impact.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what else is there?
Yeah.
I don't know. So servant leadership, not a lot of people, talk about that. Like, I didn't even learn about servant leadership until like maybe my 20s. Like, what is this? I realized it was like my brand. I just had never heard it before.
Yeah.
But you got exposed to that real early, it sounds like.
Yeah. Again, like you, not like specifically, we didn't know what it was. It's just what my parents did. And then it got reinforced in sport. I was a point guard as a basketball player. So that, by definition, is kind of a leadership role. And then you learn like styles of leadership. You can be the one that just shows up and works harder than everyone. You can be the vocal leader. You can be the leader that is going to put a foot up your backside. You can be the leader that's going to give you a pat on the back. Like, you start to learn all this stuff. And I played ball until I was 30. So I had a lot of years to kind of practice. And I love sport for a lot of reasons, but one of them is it's a safe place to fail. Because it's
good lessons to learn.
It's like good lessons, but at the same time, you got to put yourself out there. I always used to say basketball is the most intimate sport because you're literally running around in your underwear. And if you can't dribble left-handed, you better believe there's going to be a mom on the sideline going, force him left-handed. I mean, you're laid bare. Like, your strengths are out there, your weaknesses are out there, but you learn a lot. in doing that.
I see that. That's well said.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So yeah, you came here, through Gonzaga for college, and then, played professional sports in Europe, basketball.
Yep.
Why come back to Spokane?
Yeah, so we, when I was done playing, so I met my wife at Gonzaga. She's not a Spokane person either, family, so we're both kind of imports. And it was going to either go back, we had a home in Portland where I was from while I was playing in Europe. And when we stopped and we started to look for that next professional transition, there was an opportunity to come back to Spokane. And famous last words, when I was on campus, I was like, I'm never coming back to Spokane. Because all you see is Hamilton and Division. You don't necessarily get to experience all the beautiful things that Spokane has to offer. And so, we had an opportunity to come back to work, and that was my son's 16, so he'll be 17 in June. So 17 years ago, he was born, the year we moved. And just, fell in love with it and see it for everything that it is now. And then you add on, the things that I've done professionally here, and then being tied to Gonzaga athletics and Gonzaga University. My wife works there. I have a freshman at GU now.
Wild.
And so, you just get so ingrained in the community. And then
it's an easy place to love, right? Especially when you can make impact.
It is. And it's once you have some perspective on it, I think it's really important. I mean, it's one of those things where you kind of have to see how things are working elsewhere, and you go like, oh, that's a good spot. If you don't have that other perspective, I think you can kind of get bogged down in the negativity around anywhere. I'm not unique to Spokane, but I mean, anywhere you live. And so I think for our case, we have a pretty good perspective. I mean, we've been all over the world, and now we freely choose Spokane and with great enthusiasm.
Well, and I love that because you keep helping us, evolve and get better.
Oh gosh, I hope so.
Side note, who came up with the ideas of Hooptown USA?
Yeah, so that one, I'm not gonna be so humble on this one. That one was me.
That's awesome.
So it all evolved out of this idea. I mean, obviously I have ties to Gonzaga basketball. I was, neck deep in Hoop Fest. And it was always fascinating to me, the connective tissue that basketball played in our community. And I'll give you examples. The most impassioned piece of the Gonzaga fan base is our retiree community. They love the Zags. They know the recruits. They know the recruits' families. They know the recruits' younger siblings. I mean, they love the Zags.
I know. I'm picturing my aunt right now.
Everyone has someone. Yes. So, and my point, and Hoop Fest, what really makes Hoop Fest go are the volunteers.
Right.
And we would have volunteers come up to me every go, I hate basketball, but I love Hoop Fest. And so it's I got to see
How
this.
inclusive is that?
Yeah, so I got to see this I'm the one that gets to see all this stuff from my perspective. I talk to these rabid Zags fans. I got to work with these awesome Hoop Fest, enthusiasts and volunteers. And it just started to dawn on me basketball means something more than it should. In any community, especially for a community that we're not producing LeBron James.
Right.
We're just a bunch of people out here but we have these world-class examples, Hoop Fest and Gonzaga basketball. I mean, not only that, but then you start to look at our success of our high school teams. At one point, the AAU program that came out of our office at Hoop Fest was the largest AAU program in the world, or in the country, excuse me.
Wow.
You have all these wait a second, something's different. And so we started getting to talking about this at the organization level and the board level. And I just, it's it means something more. And then that kind of caught fire, gained some momentum. And how do we capture that? And from there, we started looking at all these different names, Basketball City, all these different things. And Hooptown was available just as a brand. So we bought that. I got to give a little shout out to Lewis Lee, who was a board member at the time. He was one that was well, what about Hooptown? And so we started looking at it. I had a design from an old Hoop Fest design that made sense. That was the shield and the pavilion and a basketball on top. So I was oh, bring this one back out of the archives. And then it just worked. Multi-Care got behind it right away. That's what allowed us to do the North Bank, the basketball courts at the North Bank, which when those things first opened, it was beautiful.
Yes.
It was 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. in the morning. Packed. Crowd, both courts going. Just, it didn't look like Spokane. Or it looked like an aspiring version.
I agree with that because
version.
It blew my mind. I'm what's happening here?
Yeah.
And when that saying came out and that was who we are, I started looking around too. And I'd go fishing down below the Maple Street Bridge because it's easy.
Oh, yeah.
That court, there's some quality play that happens underneath that bridge.
Peaceful Valley, yeah, it's fantastic. So,
and I'm like, okay, this really makes sense. I was
Yeah.
like, this isn't marketing; it's actually who we are.
and I like that because sometimes in marketing and branding, you try to be too much to too many people, and like this one was really succinct and specific. And even if, and I always say this, at Hoop Fest, it took two people. It took the person that wanted to be down at Rotary Fountain in the center of it all, just loving Hoop Fest. And then it took the people who were like, I'm getting as far away from that thing as possible. Way too many people. Well, I would always try to connect with the people getting out of town and say, okay, on your way to the lake, at least look downtown and say, I'm out of here, but I'm really proud we can do that.
Yeah.
So
everyone
was involved. So I always try to like get everyone kind of like, even if you're critical of it, like why, and like at least appreciate it or respect it, whatever that movement was. And so basketball for me was that connective thread in the community. And that's really where Hooptown was born.
It's incredible. I love that story. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no, I haven't told that one in a while.
Yeah. Well, and now you're bringing that same energy to, this 50th anniversary. And how are we inviting people to connect then? So we have the website, we have our schedule now.
Yep.
Like, how else can our listeners support this?
Yes.
Besides just showing up.
Yeah, well, showing up is the big one. I mean, legit, that is the big one. Come out and celebrate the community with us, whatever, big or small, opening ceremonies, or maybe you just want to go plant a tree with Lands Council in Spokane, plant a tree in Expo Forest, or come out to the
Expo Forest? That sounds cool.
Come out to the powwow. So really, social, that website, there is a free newsletter just for informational. KHQ is our partner on, Spokesman. Inlander is our partner on print. They're kind of going to have the commemorative guide.
Nice.
So we're trying to hit all the different kind of media outlets to let people know what's available. We do have a pretty fun, what we're calling Club 74. Club 74 is a membership, $74 donation. We like to play in relevant numbers, so $74. So yes, a little bit expensive, but attainable. You'll get some member benefits, like there's partnering, coffee shops and bars and restaurants that'll do a little bit of a discount throughout. But really, what the intent is, you'll get a commemorative coin.
Who doesn't like a coin?
And a season pass, so like, but my point in saying that is more philanthropy than what you get out of it. And that has really been a big driver for us financially to create this so people can come and enjoy all these things for free. We're working in a partnership with STA right now to create some free opportunities for travel so that people can get downtown. And so we're continuing, again, just try to remove those barriers to the celebration. So those multiple ways. So e-newsletter, follow along on social, follow along on the website, be on the lookout for print and TV material. And if you can and you are, moved by it, support Club 74 as a member. But more importantly, like you said, just come out to the things that are interesting to you that are on the calendar now.
Love it. Well, you heard it here. Good Gabbers, share this. Share this on your social. Show up. Have fun. Man, the one, the only, Matt Santangelo, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
It's just been such a pleasure. Any parting thoughts for our guests?
Oh, I think, I guess my only parting shot would be just one of gratitude, for the opportunity to be a part of the things I've been a part of in the community. Come out and support it. Spokane's only going to be as great as we make it.
No doubt.
We're accountable to that experience. It's not anyone else doing it. It's us. And if we do it together, it'll be amazing. If we don't, it won't. It's not rocket science. So I encourage everyone to kind of take that a little bit more optimistic view, especially in today's age, versus being critical, and say, okay, what can we do with this information that's going to make our situation better? I really do encourage you to say yes every once in a while. Why not? It's not going to hurt. And then come out and celebrate with us. Not only if it's not Expo, find other ways to celebrate our community and celebrate the people that are in it, the connections that we have, because it is a special place.
Thank you so much for your time. And I hope that you keep saying yes, because when you do, magic happens.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us
Yeah,
today.
thank you for having me on.